Welcome to the Emerging Lawyer at the Coffee Conversation Show, powered by the Emerging India Forum, TIF, and a tech partner, Prime Infotech Solution. Today's speaker is Anirudh Krishnan, founding partner at AK Law Chambers, a pioneer in arbitration, commercial dispute resolution, and insolvency law disputes. An alumnus of Oxford University and NALSAR, Anirudh has an impressive resume featuring contribution to India's arbitration reforms and a global presence in the legal landscape. Beyond his professional accomplishment, he is also an author, committee member, and mentor to budding lawyers. So, welcome, Anirudh, to today's Coffee Conversation episode.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's a great pleasure to be with you.
So, let me explain you. You must be aware of the two rounds, but there is a surprise, the rapid fire round, for which you have to be witty, fun, and quick. And you will get to win this book, which will be autographed and sent to you as your gift. But you have to win that round first. Okay. Friends, I'm Lion Amir Virani, host at Coffee Conversation and a legal tech evangelist at Prime Infotech Solution, author of 15 books. We help law firms, corporate legal, startup, and SMEs with world-class technology, software licensing, and tech training solutions. So, Anirudh, my first question for your professional journey round. What inspired you to form your law firm, AK Law Chambers, and how has the journey been since inception from 2013?
So I've always wanted to do my own advocacy. And right from the time that I went to law school at NALSAR, I've always loved uh, doing advocacy and right starting from the moot courts at that point of time. In my fourth year, when I got an offer from Clifford Chance London, it was too good an offer to refuse. So I went there with an open mind. But even when I was there, 6 months into my stint at Clifford Chance, what was clear to me was that I still wanted to do my own advocacy. And ultimately then the place is India, because the number of cases that you have in India is just so much more than in any other part of the world. So when I came back from London after completing my masters as well, I joined the chambers of senior counsel Mr. R. Murari, and Murari sir would permit us to do our own work. So while I was working with him, I also started getting my own briefs. By that time, I had also worked on a couple of books, and including one on arbitration, which resulted in some openings in that area. I got opportunities to speak at conferences, I used to write articles, and all of that resulted in some small bits of work coming in, and sir would permit us to do it while we were in his chambers. At some point of time, my own work became a fair bit, and I realized that I was not in a position to give 100% to the office work, and that's when I decided that I would step out and set up my own chambers. So that's how the journey began. The journey has been fulfilling, and I have absolutely no regrets. I think the two things that I can say with confidence is that at every stage, I've brought 100% effort to the table. So there are no regrets in that sense. And second thing that I'm quite proud about is that on the ethical front, I have not wavered even once. So these have made the journey fulfilling. The journey itself has been in many phases. So the first phase was the young boy trying to establish himself in the market. And there you're pushed for deadlines, you're pushing yourself, you're pushing your team. That takes about 3 to 4 years. At times, the pressure tells on you, because that's when you realize that you don't have that one person on top who's soaking up all the pressure. You are directly accountable to a client. That phase takes a few years. And once that happens, you then sort of start consolidating your practice, you start building your team, and it becomes extremely enjoyable. Following that came a phase, and for me, possibly that coincided with the COVID break, where the team had developed quite well, And I got to a stage where I wanted to really focus on the advocacy in my cases, which meant that I could not spend enough time on running the firm. So I then took a step back, focused more on the advocacy. And by then, a few of my colleagues had really picked up well. So I put them in the driving seat and I started focusing more on the advocacy. So overall, I think while there have been many phases to the journey, and it's still a young journey in many ways, the journey has been fulfilling.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Uh, Anirudh, as you said earlier during conversation, you started writing, contributing to, and becoming a speaker. So can you take us through the process? What goes into writing a book for the legal community? And are you still continuing that being writing articles or books for on arbitration?
Yeah, so my writing journey began in college. So there was a moot court competition for which a lot of work had gone on, a lot of research on the law of reservation. And at the end of the moot, I wanted to convert that into an article. The article ended up being 80 pages long, and it was too long for any Indian journal to publish, and it was too Indian for any foreign journal to publish. So at that point of time, I was thinking, okay, why not try and convert this into a book, maybe write another 100 pages. And we had a very dynamic vice chancellor, Professor Ranbir Singh, who would always encourage students. So I thought, okay, why not I go and ask him whether he would be ready to publish it as a NALSAR publication. While I was on my way to his office, I bumped into Aditya Wadhwa, the son of Mr. K.K. Wadhwa, who was India's leading book publisher. And Aditya was a couple of years junior to me in college. So I said, a chance, will your father be interested in publishing a book? He connected me to his father, who is an extremely dynamic man who loves it when youngsters say that they want to write. So what he told me was, you write 1,000 pages, I will publish it. And it was too good an offer for me to say no to. I didn't even think twice about it. I said, certainly, sir. So, and then I continued my journey to the vice chancellor's office, and he said, well, if Mr. Wadhwa is going to be publishing your book, I will release it at your convocation. And we had about 11 months left. So, which meant that, well, I had an outer deadline, I had a topic, and I had a page limit for the book. So that's how the journey began. I then had requested a co-author, Harini, to join me, and we got a team of research assistants in place. We made it a detailed commentary on the law of reservation in India, covering articles 14, 15, and 16 of the Constitution primarily. And that was the first book. Thereafter, I got a job in London, and I was working there. And there, one of my colleagues at work was Anirudh Wadhwa, Mr. Wadhwa's other son, and we were colleagues at Clifford Chance in London. And when we were there, it was the period of the recession. So while there was work, it was not extremely busy. And we thought, why not we write a book? When we are here, we have some time on our hands. At that point of time, I was thinking that we should write a book on competition law. While we were planning for that, there was this opportunity to write, to edit Bachawat's law of arbitration and conciliation, which was the leading commentary on the subject. So both Anirudh Wadhwa and I took on this task. And when we were there, we would come back from office by 6:30, and then sort of burn the midnight oil. And we came out with the next edition of Justice Bachawat's Law of Arbitration and Conciliation, where we went and we analyzed a number of foreign precedents. We explored areas that had really not developed in India at that point of time. So the book was quite well received, and with that I got a fair few opportunities. So subsequently, we've also brought out the next edition of Bachawat, and recently we brought out, my colleagues and I at AK Law Chambers brought out a book on commercial dispute resolution. That was that idea sort of began when we met after the 10-year reunion of AK Law Chambers, and we were reminiscing about some of the good cases we've done, some of the interesting arguments we've made, and then said, okay, why not put everything in the form of a book? And when I reached out to my colleagues, 40 of them were very happy to contribute. So we then decided that instead of this being a book by me, it will be a book by the entire team. And various chapters have been authored by various members, past and present, of AK Law Chambers. I have edited the book, but it was a complete team effort where we've gone into various aspects of commercial dispute resolution, arbitration, Commercial Courts Act, insolvency, and some general topics.
Interesting journey as an author, Anirudh. Keep doing it and getting your team also to become co-authors. That is also very commendable. These are all memories. What the Koffee is also doing for each Koffee speaker, having memories. One Koffee speaker told me, what you're doing is you're creating memories for 100 years for us. A future generation, my grandchildren, I'll tell them, show the episode, see, this was who I am. Instead of sharing stories, I'll make them watch the Coffee Conversation Show episode, and you'll come to know about me, what I was doing. So
yes, I look forward to seeing
that's what Coffee speakers are sharing, this beautiful messages they are giving. So touch wood.
Right.
Okay. So let us continue conversation. Anirudh, what role do you believe third-party funding will play in the future of international arbitration, considering your contribution to its literature?
See, third-party funding is something that the Indian Supreme Court has recently accepted. Now, I think it's possibly only 2 or 3 years since the Supreme Court accepted that this is valid. There were always question marks till then. I think third-party funding has a huge role given the increased costs of litigation and especially arbitration. Today, when you're looking at disputes like infrastructure disputes, there is a requirement to hire experts, hire lawyers, and pay arbitrator fees. And very often, the party that initiates arbitration is not in a great financial position. So, for such a company to actually fight the entire litigation funding is a very useful tool. Typically, how it works is that these litigation funders would pay the cost of the entire process, say X, and the first 3x of whatever is recovered would go to the funders, 3x or 4x based on what is negotiated. But it's still early days in the Indian market because some funders are still nervous because they look at the Indian insolvency law, they look at the financial condition of the company that is being funded, and they say, what if the company goes into insolvency? What happens to our funding arrangement? But that said, I think now there are a few Indian funders in the market, and they seem to know the lie of the land, and they seem to be more ready for funding dispute resolution in India.
Beautiful. Yeah, I've heard about this during one of my Coffee speakers sharing this new concept, and he also said the same thing. It will develop, and there are risk takers who are venturing, and you take up full cases. Okay, bhai, give us ye pura, we are funding. You go ahead, you have got full liberty, but win the case. So that's this. Majorly in the US market, it is more developed, and it's coming in India. That's very good. Good opportunities for law firms and legal professionals like you. So good thing. Okay. So let's go to your foreign journey. As a fellow at the Singapore Institute of Arbitrators, what unique skills or insights have you gained in the international arbitration domain?
See, the post of fellow of SIR was more of it was an honorary post, and they were kind enough to confer the honor on me. But so I didn't undergo any training, or I didn't go through their course as such, which a lot of them have. That said, they impart many important skills. And some of these skills you pick up while doing international arbitration. I think if I have to set out two skills, one is precision in your advocacy. In an international arbitration, you have limited time for oral advocacy, and you have to convey the most important points in a complex dispute within that limited time, for which precision is critical. The second is the importance of written advocacy, because in international arbitrations, you usually submit pre-hearing written submissions, and the tribunal is completely on top of that when you go for your oral hearing. So in that sense, written advocacy is absolutely critical. And I think these are two very important skills that you pick up over time in international arbitration.
That's interesting. Okay. So Anirudh, can you share us your most challenging arbitration case you have worked on, and how did you tackle it?
I see, if I have to go into, there are very various disputes, various bits of it are challenging. I enjoy cross-examination of technical witnesses, but if I have to pick one, I think it'll have to be my first international arbitration as a counsel, because when you have that instant transcription technology before you, and at that point of time, I don't think it was ever used in any Indian arbitration. So the first international arbitration where I was counsel, we possibly were not on top of our game. We did not identify how best we need to use that technology, and how and we didn't realize how much more effort goes in to a 9-day continuous trial where you have 500 page transcripts that come to you at 7 p.m. every day. Now, in this kind of a scenario, if you're going to sit and read the transcript line by line and then prepare, you're up till 3:30, 4 every morning, and that's what happened in that case. At the end of 9 days, we were all out. It was just exhausting. But the lessons from that were plenty. That one, during the hearing, you start flagging, you use the technology efficiently, where you flag the important points so you don't start reading the transcript when it comes to you late in the evening. You also realize that given the precision that I was referring to in my earlier answer, that is necessary in international arbitration, you start using PowerPoints. You also decide what exactly you want to convey, because you can't convey 100 things in the time that is given to you. You need to pick the 10 most important things that you can convey. So all of these were lessons that we learned the hard way in our first arbitration. But I think there's always a positive out of everything, and you learn from your shortcomings and seek to improve every time.
Beautiful, beautiful. So Anirudh, having worked with ICC, SIAC, LCAI, AMTAC rules, which framework do you find most effective and why?
See, I find sometimes it's more about the frequency of having done it. And SIAC and ICC, I think, are the rules that I've used the most often. And while I'm fine with all the rules, I prefer these two. Sometimes some institutions can tend to be a little too procedural, but I think with both SIAC and ICC, I've never had them.
Wow. Okay. So Anirudh, you have been consulted by Justice Shri Krishna Commission and the Law Commission of India. What was your most significant contribution to arbitration reform in India?
Yeah, I don't think I can say it is my contribution, because it was whatever was discussed both in the Law Commission as well as in the Justice Sri Krishna Commission was a team effort. As part of the Law Commission, was very lucky. I was one of the younger members to be invited to be part of the commission, and I think it was from my point of view, it was a fantastic learning experience, because I was amidst stalwarts at the age of possibly 26 or 27. So it was a fantastic learning experience. But one idea that I can say that emanated from me, which was discussed threadbare and finally forms part of our legislation, is introduction of the 5th and 7th schedules to the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, which lays down the basic guidelines on bias and on ineligibility of arbitrators, which I think has made a big difference in improving the quality of arbitrations in India today.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Anirudh, as a member of various committees, including the Madras High Court Arbitration Committee, how do you balance advocacy and reform work?
See, it's about the easiest thing is to say that I don't have the time to do something. I think the more challenging thing is to try and fit in everything, for which I think you just need to be a little organized in your work schedule. This is something where you plan it in advance, you work it out in such a way that that at the end of the day you have a mix. You have some time set out for, say, doing committee work or doing book work, and a large part of time set out for your regular professional commitments. I think it's also very important to build a team and carry the team along with you, because at the end of the day, the journey is both more enjoyable and more productive when you have a team walking along.
Very good. True. Yes. So, Anirudh, how has the leadership style evolved over the years?
Uh, in terms of, I mentioned to you the various phases of. So I think in the first phase, I was possibly a lot more demanding on the team, and thereafter you start understanding the strengths and weaknesses of people, and you try and utilize those for their strengths while you speak to them and be communicative and get members of the team to work on their weaknesses. So we have a review once in 6 months where we are very open with the members of the team, where we tell them these are your strengths, these are your weaknesses, this is how we think you can overcome it. And I think that has helped. I think it's also important to know who can do what and who's good at doing what. So everybody has their strengths. You may have one person who can get a filing done overnight. If you need an urgent interim injunction to be obtained tomorrow, the files come to you at 6 p.m. today, it is this person that you would go to. You may have somebody else whose depth of legal research is fantastic. So if you are going to give the first person legal research that is due in 3 days, or you're going to give the second person who I referred to the overnight filing, it is going to be a mess. So while you will certainly get each of them to work on areas that they need to work on, you will give primary responsibility to somebody where it is their comfort area. That's how I think you work as a team, and you need that communication is very important to build your team.
Beautiful. So that was your leadership style. Now, as I said in my opening remarks about you, you're a mentor to budding lawyers. So, what actions do you take for mentoring them?
See, I think it's about each person knowing that they have ultimately that they're going to be given that opportunity. They're going to be given the opportunity, and then I'm going to back them. While certainly I am not somebody who, well, certainly if there is a mistake, it will be pointed out. Uh, I can say that in terms of providing a youngster direct client interaction, direct opportunities to deliver, right from day one here, I think we have provided that. So I've had a lot of people coming back and telling me that what that doing, say, working 2 to 3 years here, we've learned so much, and we feel like we are 6 to 7 years in the profession. So those kind of things are very fulfilling. Plus, those who it's a large unit. So even those who step out, we continue to encourage them. If there are sailing briefs, we take them along. Even if there are certain other matters, we refer it to them. So it's a journey, and from my point of view, once that relationship is built, that relationship is for life. So I'll continue supporting them. It's not a case that, oh, today you started your own practice, and therefore you are a rival. So those of them who have been uh, who have reciprocated this feeling of being part of the same team, we have supported throughout, and in that sense, and I think for me it was very fulfilling when 40 people wanted to contribute to this book that I mentioned. I realized that, all right, that I've done something right if so many people want to come back and be part of a publication that is AK Law Chambers publication.
Beautiful, beautiful. So my last question for your professional journey around, how has technology helped you and which legal tech tool has impacted your work, Anirudh?
See, I'm going to go into not naming a legal tech tool, because what has really benefited me the most is liquid text. So we, given the volume of work, there are about, say, if you do a complex arbitration with 30 volumes of backup documents, you would earlier have a full table filled with 30 volumes. Now everything is on your iPad, and you can have everything neatly indexed and hyperlinked. So instead of flipping pages, and which would take time, here press of a button, you're there. So liquid text has really been a game changer. So far as arbitrations are concerned, I think instant transcription, which I briefly referred to earlier, is a game changer in India. I think a lot of, when I was referring to how we struggled to deal with the technology in the first arbitration where I was a counsel. But now, even in Indian arbitrations, some instant transcription softwares are being used. There are two Indian service providers, and that's made a huge impact.
Beautiful. That's impressive. Okay, how technology in India is helping the legal professionals. So let's go to the next round and understand Anirudh as a person. Tell us about your family and your formative years, Anirudh.
So, as I have a lovely family. I have a family of lawyers. My parents are both lawyers. My father is a senior counsel. My wife is my mother is a lawyer. My wife is a lawyer. We have two young children. So yeah, the family support is very important for me, and I think they've been a backbone at all points of time. So that's something that sometimes we just take for granted, but I think I know how lucky I am to have this kind of family support. You
Wow.
also asked about my formative years. My formative years, I think the one word that comes to mind is freedom. I was never bound by rules. I had the freedom, and I think that freedom gives you the freedom to think and the freedom to develop. So that was something that was important. I was in a school where there was no pressure. It was a school where there were no exams to the sixth standard. There was no pressure. So I think that helps you develop as a personality. A school called Vidya Mandir.
Wow. Okay, let's go to your days at NALSAR, Hyderabad. What are your memories and experience from there?
So NALSAR is when I got sort of thrown in from this generally from a school where you really didn't face competition, where you didn't have the idea of competition, to being in a university where you have the cream from the country fighting for limited spots. So it was like something that maybe for the first time got me out of my comfort zone. And one important thing that I realized there was that you can never stay in your comfort zone. You need to keep exploring areas outside your comfort zone to move forward in your journey. And I think NALSA taught me that. NALSA taught me that, well, in a competitive world, how do you survive?
Beautiful. Okay. Uh, Anirudh, what's a little known fun fact about you that even your colleagues might not know?
I don't know whether you can call this a fun fact, but everybody knows about my absent-mindedness. But after my 12th standard board exam, the practical exam for computer science, I absent-mindedly took the paper home. So I get a call from school, and I realize it's there in my bag. But luckily, the teacher had the confidence in me to accept it. And
Back.
otherwise, I think I may have had to spend one more year in school.
Okay. So any funny incident, recent ones?
Um, Recent funny incidents.
You forgot your passport while going for an international tour.
Well, I can. Well, one of my colleagues, he was. So we had gone for an arbitration, and usually I'm the one who is always there last minute for a flight. So, and my colleague is the one who likes going 3 hours in advance, and we were flying together, and he was forced to come last minute because of me. And since I was flying business class, I there was a shorter queue, and I absentmindedly took, and his card was not, or he didn't believe his card was working. So I had all the money with me, and I absentmindedly crossed over to beyond security and immigration, and he was stuck there with excess baggage and having to pay a fine, and he was already freaking out because he was very late by his standards. Luckily, the card that he had worked, and therefore he escaped, but we had a hearty laugh after that.
Wow, wow.
And he insists that even if he travels with me, he continues he continues to go 1.5 hours earlier.
Have to, nahi to. So I'll be careful when I'm traveling with you. I'll travel separately. This all life is all about having fun, Anirudh. Okay. Are there any hobbies or activities you turn to for stress relief after long days in court or arbitration?
See, if I have to pick one thing, I like watching some kind of slapstick comedy for 10 minutes, 15 minutes before I go to sleep. It can be, very often it is some Tamil comedy. Sometimes it is there are some cricket chat shows like the one that Ashwin does with one more character, one more person called P Dog, who's both a cricket analyst and is very humorous. Then sometimes it's stand up comedy. So things like that for 15, 20 minutes before I sleep on a regular basis is something I like watching. That sort of. Otherwise, I like sport, but it's not that I get to watch sport on a daily basis. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, Anil, what's your favorite travel destination and what are your plans for 2025 travel plans to visit?
See, I would say that I don't think I can pick one travel destination because I absolutely love traveling. In fact, when the year is quite hard, the our mandatory break is in May. 15 days, I ensure that I go to some new destination. I love wildlife, so I go to a lot of forests. What we've recently started doing is uh, I love sport, as I mentioned. So I've been wanting to go to some of these marquee sporting events. So I got to go for Djokovic versus Alcaraz in the French Open last year, which was wonderful. Went to the Boxing Day test in Melbourne this year. So those are things that I like doing. I absolutely love traveling. Don't want to pick one particular place because I've had lovely experiences in so many different places. Not yet planned for 2025.
Okay, I was going to ask you that. Okay. Spur of the moment. Plan out.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, Anil, who has been your cheerleader, supporter, or influencer in your personal and professional life?
Well, I think I'll have to say uh, my family. I think in terms of I think my parents. I will have to start with them as people who have provided me support from day one. I think my mother has sacrificed her career to ensure that she got to spend quality time with me when I was young. And there are so many important things she imbibed in me. Like, for instance, I mentioned about time allocation. right from the time I was in fifth or sixth standard, I would sit with her and draw out timetables for the week. And what I do then is what I do today. I draw it on a whiteboard today. I used to draw it on a notebook with her earlier. Plus, so many other mantras. Like I used to play a lot of competitive chess, and she used to tell me that you do your best, God will take care of the rest. That essentially means control the controllables, which I think is so important in our profession today. You do your best for a case. You may win, you may lose, but you need to be able to deal with both, with and still maintain your calmness. So I think she's also been somebody who's told me that all right, she's led by example, where even if she is not well, she will push herself if something is important to do it. So in that sense, my mother is a very important mentor. My father is an equally important mentor. A lot of children grow up with strict rules in the house, and here there were no rules, and my father gave me complete freedom, which has shaped me as an individual. Further, when I stepped into the profession as a senior lawyer, he's been a wonderful guide and a mentor. I think as a young lawyer, sometimes the line between an interesting argument and an outrageous argument is sometimes blurred, and you make an outrageous argument, you lose your credibility. I think there have been so many days where I've just picked up the phone and bounced these arguments off my father, and he's been a guide throughout. He's also been one of those who sort of made it very clear as to how you balance your responsibility to your client with your responsibility to court. Because as an officer of court, that is very important. You need to remain fair. So my parents are huge mentors. My wife is somebody who has hugely supported me. I think sometimes we take these things for granted. It's only when she travels for a week or two that I realize that everything is such a whirlwind around me at that point of time. I think some of these smaller things you take for granted, but you realize what a wonderful support system that you have. And for that support system, my wife is absolutely crucial. And any time that you're not in a great mental shape, she's the person who I discuss things with. And my children, I think they make you realize that life is not just about your profession. So however driven you may be, you feel that it's important to take out that time, and you just come back, you relax with them. They're the best stress busters one can get. So I think, yes, so if I have to talk about influential people and people who have been support systems and cheerleaders, it'll have to be my family. But when you're looking around in the profession, you also try and look at others and try and pick the best points you can from others. So in that sense, that for a lawyer, there may be 100 people that you look up to because you may like how a particular lawyer does something. So on the professional front, there are many things that many lawyers do that I really like, and when they do that, I try and see how I can imbibe that skill. So that's one thing that I must add, I thought.
Beautiful, beautiful. So my last question, which will be a googly one, describe Anirudh in one line.
I think I can say that I'm a person with my heart in the right place.
Wow. Okay, let's have some fun. The rapid fire round. You're an early bird or a night owl?
Early bird.
Your favorite cuisine?
Italian.
Your dream car?
Dream car. I like driving an Audi, but at the end of the day, I think a car just takes you from place A to place B. So whichever the car is, I think just be lucky.
Okay. Wow. A lawyer or arbitrator you admire the most?
Yeah, as I said, you don't want to pick one. There are skills from various people that you like to pick up. You like how some people frame their argument. You like how some people are able to give a spin to a new case. So yeah, I don't think it will be fair to pick one. There are so many of them.
Fine, it's fine. A favorite color?
Yellow.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Your favorite cricketer?
Sachin Tendulkar.
Okay. So you did well, and here's your gift, which will be autographed and sent to you. So,
Thank you very
friends,
much. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
yeah, friends, it was a lovely conversation with Anirudh, how he's taken his arbitration journey to a global level. And this is what this episode is all those young legal professionals who want to take the as an arbitrator. This is the episode you have to watch, and you'll get really insights. Okay, from his starting days, he got opportunity to publish his book. So there are seniors out there who motivate you and support you along your journey. And there are many other facets of Anirudh which you can watch. He a leader where he takes his team together. So all those things are there in this episode to watch out, get inspired. So, like this, there are over 300 plus episodes at the Coffee Corner Show. Watch them, subscribe so you get to inspired from each coffee speaker. And if you want to be featured like Anirudh, visit our website, theemergingindiaforum.com, or our social media handles. Our team will connect with you and invite you to share your story over a cup of coffee. So take care. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Virani.